gathering information regarding the design, what they're gonna do on the app, on the VR app, and I'm staying to work on the VR area.
Okay. Yep.
Upstairs.
Yep. So you'll be doing some VR work downstairs and prototyping and yep.
So far, we got a field study of the previous visit we made to the Museum of Science, and we got some interesting data that we can just put it around alongside the research we're doing, because they asked us first for the marketing research, and second to do a prototype, either in the form of drawing or just VR.
Yep.
Which we're gonna do both.
Okay. Yep. So a paper prototype and a digital prototype. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So you've both got. It seems like you've got busy day to day doing things.
Yeah. They're on the area just going. They have the focus group's gonna start at 1.
Right.
And it's gonna finish around 4.
Okay.
So they'll be back around 5 or 6.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we're just gonna work downstairs in the VR lab.
Okay.
Then we're gonna have a meeting like around midday and at the end of the checkout.
Okay. Yep. And in terms of the group dynamics, things are working well?
Yes.
Yep.
So far, so good.
Still feeling like a team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Even though we're working separately right now, we have like our everything established, like our activities. So it's all good.
So it feels connected. Excellent. Okay. So chemistry group.
Yeah. 2 down. 2 down today.
Yes.
Yes.
My programmers need to beat them. I shouldn't say that on tape. In case they show up being beaten. They look easy.
I'm sick, so they're sick today. But yeah. So we'll just work on some other stuff today, I guess. Some of the programming we'll have to wait for now.
So yeah, because I was having a look at how they were doing. So they were doing the attaching of the balls to a connector and things. So some of that was coming along, but they
figured out a few things. They still have
a few bugs still, but it's getting closer to. So there is a lot of design around how that should look beyond just the programming context. So so today it we partly doing that area. Now as I said, we do have Ula, who is a PhD in chemistry. So if you want to talk to her, then perhaps we could have a meeting with her today. You could see if she's got some time and discuss like what the look is from the expert in chemistry. And have you guys thought about so I know you're doing the modeling in the sticks and the balls, and that's what you're modeling down there. Have you thought about a more realistic representation? Showing it in a more realistic way, or are you going to stay in the modeled molecule approach?
I think for this project, we're just
staying in the modeled molecule rather than.
We have been given restrictions from the programmer to not go
too crazy.
To think too big, because I think we kind of stress them out a lot with our ideas.
Right.
Right. And so we said, well, it's your job to just tell us where the limitations are, and our ideas will keep growing until you tell us no. So.
Well, there is also for the way that this works, it is perfectly reasonable for you to write a report on what was able to be made, as well as a design for what should be made.
Yeah.
Right? So you can write a version 2 document, which is your design around how it should be, right? And showing proof of concept for some parts of that is the working prototype, right? And what you generally do, and this is for this kind of project, one of the things you could look at doing is saying, okay, we're taking this far enough to go and apply for money to pay for a group of 4 developers to work on the 3-year from the Ministry of Science, saying that yes, this would be a new way of teaching chemistry, right? So what you're doing is showing the general look. This is the first part of it, and the actual prototype with a design document saying this is what needs to be done, and then like doing the financials, you'd say how much will it cost to implement your vision, right? And so the programmers, having worked out what they've done, also help you design, like do the costing for the rest of the project, right? And that would be that's a perfectly reasonable way of also using your resources that you have in your team effectively, right? Because you have 3 designers and 2 programmers. In game design, team sizes and team proportions change, but one of the things that was reasonably common was a kind of 10-to-1 ratio, right? You'd have 1 designer and 10 production people. So that has been in the past like 5 programmers, 5 artists, and 1 designer. And so because a designer can come up with ideas faster than programmers can implement them and faster than artists can draw them. And so you need a really large group of people working on the product for every designer designing it. Which means when you're in a group with more designers, you start saying, well, okay, we're going to design things that the 2 programmers aren't going to be able to make in this length of time. So we'll write that as a project proposal and cost it out and say, hey, we'd like the government to fund us.
Yes, we have some clear ideas of where we would, in a perfect world, put a lot of money in. Plenty of time. We do kind of know what the essential project would be and what we would like it to be. So we've already talked about that, but then right now we kind of went back a couple steps to be on the same level as programmers, so that because they felt like we were just new ideas.
Zooming ahead.
And then we didn't communicate that well. Oh, no, don't worry about what we are. It's just, because we don't want to limit, the ideas that come to us, and maybe some of the ideas might be applicable at this stage or could improve some of, or solve some of the problems that we have with the current design.
Yeah.
We'll see.
One of the biggest challenges I'm having at the moment with the game engines is it's become very hard to tell what is easy and what is hard, because some things that you feel like this is going to take a week to develop is 1 line of code, and some things you think, oh, this will be 1 line of code, take you 3 or 4 days.
And that's been a lot of the miscommunications we have, because some of the things that we think as designers would be an easy thing for them to do is one of the hardest, and we were like, what? How could that be? No, they just go, no. Yeah. And then some of the things that we may think might be an issue or might be difficult, they are, that's completely doable.
Done.
Yeah, done. And we're like, okay,
yeah.
It's kind of nice to see how.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the point of these interdisciplinary teams is also being exposed to other people's areas and working out what is hard and easy, and trying to get an appreciation for different expertise, bringing different skills and different tools, and having different challenges. The one we use in first year game design is on a client wanting the cars in a game to go faster. And so, but what he said to the designers is that could they put chrome on the bumpers of the cars? And the reason for that is because in normal cars, if you chrome the bumpers and make them flashy and shiny, people think they look faster in normal cars. But when he said, can you put chrome on the bumpers? The programmer would go, oh my God, reflections! And have no idea how to do dynamic lighting and reflections on bumpers. Like, that's massively hard. But making the car go faster is a single change of a parameter, right? So a mismatch between clients understanding what was easy and hard, and the programmer's knowledge about what they can do. So yeah, it's useful you're bumping up into that issue, because it is something that happens a lot in my industry, is that challenge. So it's something you should also be writing about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Already.
Okay. Then, so today you'll be doing some of the designing on that, and those 2 guys are having a sick day.
Yes, and then we're going to be looking a bit more into our process report, just to see, because we met up on Monday and had a pizza and lunch evening. So they're gonna send us the reflections now, and then we will basically write out now that it's fresh. So
Okay.
how it went and what we learned.
Yep. Very good. Okay. Right. Now, people hiding behind screens. If I do this, it minimizes its footprint. Okay, so
today, what we're gonna continue to maybe paper prototype for our tutorial lab.
Mhm.
We are somehow or close to finishing. And also have lots of ideas for our level 2, which if you have the time, to work on that. And our programmer is on his way.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure what we will do today. Maybe get to start programming.
And maybe in the same advice applies. If you need to, you design in advance of what you currently have, and write it as a proposal for further extension. Okay? So, yep. And group dynamics.
I think it's good place.
You're able, still feeling like a team, and you feel reasonably team-like. Yep. And so, are there exercises you think you need to do? Or are you feeling that things are just today, it's useful to do work?
You said earlier that we were going to repeat I remember the name of first.
2+1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to repeat that in later.
At some point.
Might be in the time.
Yeah, either tonight, today, or with you next week. Yep. Okay. Because now you guys have actually worked for a bit longer. Your reflections are more, rather than first impression, kind of how I first met you, kind of 2+1. They're more of a having worked with you for a bit, 2+1. Yeah. Okay. Right. And collaboration group.
So today we're going to do some testing from a group. So they I've sent them a link to our project, and we'll have to download theirs. So we're going to test their laser gaming thing, and we're going to test the other groups, which are also doing. Other group is also doing the molecule versus set thing, but doing it in Unreal, so it's a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
For our project, like the programming part, we've come like you can record your head position and hand position, and you can start recording and stop recording, and then you can replay it back.
Mhm.
So that part, we're considering which part we want to proceed on, because we're in the end. The end goal is kind of to have a room where the teacher would record his stuff,
Mhm.
and then we have the player load in it into a separate room, because the player doesn't need the record stuff, so we're just doing separate functionality.
A playback tool and a
Yeah.
Record.
creating tool. Yeah.
Yeah, and then thing with you mentioned with having the player this way and not having recording stuff continuing.
An auto pause on. Yep.
So we're probably going to have to take it quite a bit. It's, we don't have time to implement all of it. So we're probably going to take the audio, and we might. It depends on. I'm not sure how we're going to take the recording yet. I might just make one, and then I'll probably going to have to save the file anyway. But we're probably going to focus on the interaction with the looking away and looking at the user, and then having some sort of menu system. Because currently we have like meters in the class system with having like the variety on like walls, everything maybe having it on. And something that would be easier. Because currently you have to go back to the same space and turn it off. Turn it on.
Right. Yep. But having a wristwatch kind
Yeah.
of approach, a smartwatch approach. Yep.
Yeah, so we're also thinking about how do you actually it should be like the radial menu.
Mhm.
Because the Unreal Store has assets for that, but they're not $28. So think of maybe just like taking it instead of just using images in between.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, today it's a decision making because we have to path to follow.
Yep.
So we probably need to cut one branch to focus on the other one because time.
Yep.
So we need to define how to decide on that,
Yep.
discuss.
Yep.
And
That's
then during the testing, maybe we can have some feedback about the current state of the system, and in the same time provide feedback to the other groups so that we can move on.
Yep. No, that sounds good. Yes, the audio stuff is interesting, but you can work around it, right? And even if that is grabbing an audio recorder, right, or your iPhone or your phone and hitting record, like watching the thing and recording your voice, and then just putting that in as the audio, right? So the audio recording and the playback of audio is much easier. As an interesting project that I saw last night that I was reading about was Beyond Solitary? No, After Solitary. So in VR, and this accounts for the VR groups, one of the current fun activities or the activities people are doing are volumetric recording for documentary making. So there's currently a documentary film which is of a prisoner in a cell. He's in solitary confinement for and his life in that solitary confinement. And what they've done is they've done a mini camera volumetric model. So when you walk around the person, you see them as a person, and it's using the film from the mini cameras to create a not polygonated model, but a volumetric with image textured model. And people are saying that this is very engaging and very different. So the Buzz Aldrin stuff also did this, right? So the tech behind the Buzz Aldrin to Mars, there's a Buzz Aldrin takes you on a tour to Mars, I think. So there is some very interesting stuff going on in that area, right? And there's a company pimping out its particular technology solution, which I know the technology, and you can do it from open source technology that exists. It's just other people haven't married it all together. But of course, they're trying to be very proprietary and saying, no, this is our proprietary format for doing this, right? But they're doing recording, right? So they do recording and audio, but their recording is from real people in the real world, right? So that's one of the significant differences from what you're doing, which is you're recording the real person in the virtual world. But it's interesting to look at that as a state-of-the-art comparison technology, right? And for all of this material, doing live recordings of a world and then being able to be in VR in that world as an observer is an interesting approach to this, right? So where the mixing of virtual and real is coming along quite quickly at the moment. So it's something to be aware of in terms of, for your recording, what the state of the art is in the industry. Okay, right. So the virtual team have been working on the exercises. So looking at, as I said last time, looking at how the difference between doing those exercises in virtual reality with a virtual tools versus real tools. So are there tools in Discord that support storytelling, and are there things that do like the 2+1 approach and the Citra exercises and mapping of skills exercises? So they're looking at those exercises, and they're having a meeting with Runa and I. Are going to go over their next steps around the future exercises to try and test and create virtual processes that support the same fundamental ideas, right? So that you can feel like a team even when you're not together. Okay, right. So a work day, and we'll see you back for checkin. We'll hang around occasionally and come and pop our heads in and see what you guys are doing. And if you need more facilitation and you feel that you're not working well, you can always put your hand up and kind of, and try and get our attention, and we can come and see what's going on if we see any problems. but it seems like most of you are in a reasonably good spot in terms of working.
I have one question.
Yes.
In student form, it says that the deadline for this is the 14th of June. So I'm just rechecking that
Right.
there hasn't been a change. It's still the 4th of May. But we don't have
Yeah. Yeah. So student web is reporting the last date that we are allowed to submit grades for having reviewed everything, right? Because we have extended the virtual team out, then yes, that's also allows us to push the virtual team out and then do their review late. But the reason why it's 4th of May is because one, we're following the EIT process, which is 15 correct date, right? And so we're supposed to stop after 15 days, right? And that also therefore gives you an opportunity to finish your other courses with their large assignments coming up at the end. So rather than just allow this to linger in and run till into June, it finishes early May. So that's why we're still sticking with early May as the deadline for all of these groups. The virtual group has got a quite different challenge, so that's why we're giving them extra time. Okay.
Maybe you can say a little bit about the project report, the science.
The size of the project report and the content of the project report. Okay, because as you know, there are the two reports. There's the process report and the group report, and the project report. Now, the size of the project report for us varies depending on how much of it is prototyped and made versus how much is just review of existing material, right? So if you're just doing a review, we expect a longer document because you're not implementing it, right? So for you guys, there is your group of 5, and the 3 of you on the creative side and creating new content, in terms of creating new ideas, those ideas have to be written down. So I expect to see those in the report. For the code, there is a bunch of bashing your head against the brick wall, which doesn't actually generate more content, right? So it gets content to work, but it doesn't kind of have the volume, right? So depending on the balance of your group and how much of each you're doing, the length changes. So my golden rule around all of these things is to say, okay, how many people, how many hours, how much would I expect in those number of hours of work? Okay. I use a diminishing returns model for group sizes. So if I have 1 person, 2 people generate about 1.8, 3 people generate about 2.4, 2.5 maybe. 3 people generate, so 4 people generate about 3, right? So you lose productivity as you add people, right? So I don't, what I expect 1 person to be able to do in 1 week. I can't just say, well, I've got 4 people, therefore I'd be able to do 4 times as much as that, right? You might be able to do anywhere between 2.5 and 3 times as much as 4 individuals as a group of 4 people, because it just burns time communicating, right? So for a group of 5, I'd be looking at sort of 3 and a little bit, like 3.2 times what an individual could do. And I then look at 15 weeks of 10 hours a week. So it's 150 hours per individual. We burn about 60 of that 150 hours in other activities, doing activities and other things other than the project. So it's kind of a 90-hour, so a 2-week worth of work. So if we said 2 weeks of work, a report that documents 2 weeks of work. Now we have the 2 reports, so you therefore have, and it's 50-50. So if you could describe 2 weeks of work in 5 pages, I would be surprised. I think it should be longer than that. So that would be times 5 of you, right? So if you're talking 25 pages, that would be, because there'll be overlap there. So I think sort of in that 25-page range for the report would be reasonable. Once you're going up over 50 pages, you're probably putting a little more material in. If you're under 10 pages for your process report for this, I would be concerned you wouldn't pass. Okay, so that's my feeling in terms of size. For the reports themselves, for ones where have a clear, we are prototyping something, we have this background, you can use an IMRAD structure, you can use an interaction, you can use methodology for how you did stuff, and what results you had if you're being able to test, and then writing a discussion conclusion, right? So you can write up your report as an IMRAD style report where you have an idea that you are testing and getting results from, right? So that would be perfectly reasonable. If you were merely doing a literature review, right, you wouldn't necessarily have results so much as be doing a systematic review and evaluation of the literature, right? So you'd write a different report for that. So, and in terms of format, you can use LaTeX or Word or whatever. We don't have a particular template for those reports. There is a template for the process report, I believe.
No, we just say maximum 25 pages,
Maximum 25 pages.
excluding front page.
So the process report is maximum 25 pages. Right? If you do more than 25 pages of process, you're probably overthinking it. Right? But for your, so the progress report, a 25-page, given that you've got some images that you're putting in, those sort of things, it may only be 15 pages of actual text. But yeah, so in that range is what I think. Is that clear? Okay. So
What about the other report?
So
What's the process?
The process report maximum 25 pages. So the project report,
Okay.
that can be the MRAD structure. That's one I'm also saying is about 25 pages, right? But you may end up writing more, but you shouldn't be writing a lot more. And if you were less than 10 on your project, then you've probably not done enough. Right? With five of you working for, even if you consider 2 weeks, 5 of you, 2 pages to describe 2 weeks of work. Yeah, that's probably not good enough. To convince us that you actually did 2 weeks of work.
So then does the process report have structure as well? Or is it?
It's up to you.
It's up to you. Yeah. So no, that is up to you. If you want some more guidance, we can try and look at doing some guidance. But part of the idea is also to allow you to say how you say what the process report would look like, right? So you've got the reflections, you've been recording those. How you analyze those is kind of part of your learning, right? Is to think, okay, how do we collect and analyze these reflections? What have we learned from these reflections? If you structure your report around answering questions, right? So this is my own personal thing, but if you think about the what questions would someone have about your process, and what can someone learn from reading your process report, right? So yeah, think about it in terms of how to structure it to gain the most amount of information from it.
Can you give some information about next week? It says reflection day.
Yeah, so that will be an exercise so we'll have an exercise in the afternoon.
Okay.
On
No, it's, we have a reflective dialogue. It's a meeting between one of us
Yep.
and each group
Should we prepare anything for that day?
So it's one group at a time. It's not a joint activity or anything.
How long will it take? An hour?
Not more than an hour, probably.
Only half an hour.
Yeah.
And that's just about discussing our progress and where we are.
More on the process.
Yeah, more. We'll ask you how you feel. Very un-Norwegian of us, I know. Okay. Oh, good. Right. Off to work.